Help me hit 7,000 subscribers. Support the video with a like and share your thoughts in the comments. I read everyone, thank you. I didn't think a joke could travel miles and still land this hard. That's the lie I told myself when we decided to leave my husband behind for laughs. My name is Evelyn, and for most of my marriage to Marcus, I believed I was careful, thoughtful, loyal. That night proved how thin those words can become when comfort turns into cruelty. Marcus and I had been married 12 years, the kind that settles into routines instead of sparks. We knew each other's coffee orders, our quiet Sundays, the way stress showed up as silence. When my sister Paige planned a coastal birthday weekend with friends, Marcus couldn't get the time off. Project deadline. A promise he'd made months earlier. I kissed him goodbye and told him we'd make it up later. He smiled, tired, trusting. The drive down was loud and careless. Music too loud, jokes sharper than necessary. Someone suggested a prank, harmless, they said. We'd text Marcus a fake location, tell him we'd missed the turn, make him worry for a minute, then laugh it off. I hesitated. Paige rolled her eyes. He's a grown man, she said. He'll laugh. I let myself believe her because it was easier than being the difficult one. We sent the message when we arrived, then another, stretching the story. Miles became hours. Concern turned into a dozen calls I ignored because answering would end the fun. I told myself he'd be relieved soon. I told myself too many things. If this story already makes you uncomfortable, please like and share it so it reaches people who understand how small choices can snowball. By the time Marcus actually drove out, the tone changed. His voice, when I finally answered, was tight. He said he was on the road, headlights cutting through fog, asking me to send our real location. Paige laughed in the background. I didn't stop her. That's the part that keeps me awake. I didn't stop her. We went out that night anyway. Drinks arrived fast, boundaries fell faster. A friend of a friend, Oliver, sat close, asked easy questions, listened like it mattered. I complained about marriage in the safe language people use when they want sympathy without consequences. He touched my wrist. I didn't pull away. I told myself Marcus was still miles away. That time stretched, that the joke was already over. It wasn't. When Marcus showed up near midnight, his face looked older. He stood there, winded, phone in his hand, and the room went quiet. Paige tried to spin it as a misunderstanding. Laughter died. Marcus didn't raise his voice. He asked one question, simple and devastating. Why didn't you answer? I opened my mouth and said nothing true. After he left, I crossed the line I'd been pacing all night. I stayed. I drank. I let Oliver walk me back. Nothing explicit happened, which is the lie people cling to. What happened was worse. I chose not to go after my husband. I chose not to explain. I chose not to be the woman I thought I was. At this point, comment one word that fits this moment for you, reckless or cruel, and say why. The morning brought shame like a headache. Messages from Marcus sat unread because reading them meant owning what I'd done. The joke wasn't a joke anymore. It was a map of decisions leading somewhere I didn't recognize. When I finally called, he didn't accuse me. He said he'd driven back alone, the road empty, thinking about trust and how laughter can hide teeth. He said he needed space. I said I understood, which was another half-truth. I flew home alone. The house felt different, like it had learned something about us. Marcus slept in the spare room. Days passed with polite logistics and no warmth. I wanted to apologize without minimizing, to explain without excuses. I realized crossing every line isn't about one night. It's about every moment you choose yourself over respect. And respect, once you laugh it away, takes a long road to find again. I don't know whether love survives this, but honesty starts here, and silence finally ends tonight for us both. Marcus didn't come home the night I returned. He sent a short text saying he was staying with a friend, that he needed time to think without the walls echoing. I read it 3 times, noticing what wasn't there. No anger. No blame. Just distance, which felt worse. Distance meant he was deciding who he would be after this, and I didn't know if I fit into that version of him anymore. When he finally came back, it was early morning. I heard the door before I saw him, the quiet click like a question mark. He stood in the kitchen, rubbing his eyes, looking at the floor as if it might tell him what to do. I started apologizing too fast, words tumbling over each other, explaining the joke, the pressure, the drinks, the stupid choices that felt small at the time. He lifted a hand, not harshly, just enough to slow me down. "I don't need details," he said. "I need to know if you understand why this hurts." That question did something to me. I'd been preparing defenses, not understanding. I told him I'd let laughter replace empathy, that I'd watched him worry and kept the joke alive because it made me feel included, that I'd chosen attention over loyalty. I said the words out loud and they sounded heavier than I expected. He nodded, like someone checking items off a list he didn't want to be writing. We talked for hours, not fighting but circling the truth. He said driving those miles alone, thinking we were lost, wondering if something was wrong, had flipped a switch. "I felt stupid," he said. "And I don't want to feel that way with my wife." I had no argument. There isn't a clever response to the realization that you became unsafe to the person who trusted you most. Counseling came up like a lifeline neither of us wanted to grab first. Pride makes even help feel like a loss. We agreed to try, not as a fix, but as a way to speak without interruption. Sessions were quiet at first. I learned to listen without rushing to explain. Marcus learned to say when humor felt like disrespect. Progress was uneven, which is the most honest kind. Weeks later, Paige apologized. She meant it. I accepted it, but distance stayed. Consequences don't disappear just because remorse shows up late. I stopped drinking for a while, not as punishment, but to hear myself think. I started showing up differently, answering calls, choosing discomfort over avoidance. Some days Marcus softened. Other days he didn't. Trust doesn't return on a schedule. One evening, months after the trip, we took a walk at dusk. He said he still loved me, but love wasn't the same as safety. That sentence landed gently and still knocked the air out of me. We sat on a bench and watched cars pass, each one going somewhere certain. If you've been in a moment like this, add to the discussion in the comments. Do you believe trust can be rebuilt after public humiliation, or does it change shape forever? The line I crossed didn't involve a hotel key or a locked door. It involved choosing laughter over my husband's dignity. That's what I wish I'd understood earlier. Lines aren't always bright red. Sometimes they're faint, and you step over them smiling. I don't tell this story to be forgiven by strangers. I tell it because I learned how easily, just a joke, can turn into a fracture that echoes. Marcus and I are still here, still working. Some mornings feel lighter. Others feel careful. I've learned that care isn't a weakness. It's respect with its sleeves rolled up. If this ends, it won't be because of one night, but because of what we decide to do every day after it. I can live with that honesty now. Before you go, like this story, comment your answer to this question, and subscribe if you want more real, uncomfortable stories about relationships and accountability, because reflection only matters when it continues beyond one ending.